Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky says his country's forces have liberated 8,000 square kilometres in a lightning counteroffensive in his country's northeast. But as Ukrainian troops raise the flag in towns and villages in the Kharkiv region, reports are emerging of the torture and murder of civilians by Russian forces. We'll have more on that in a moment from our correspondent in the city of Kharkiv. First, some of the scenes from the past 24 hours.
A mother reunited with her son. He had been fighting in the Ukrainian army for days in the Kharkiv region until his unit liberated his home village. My son, I have been waiting for you. I have kept all your things, everything. They said there are mines in the apartment.
Mom, you're looking good as always. I missed you so much.
Ukrainian soldiers follow a trail of destruction as they press their attack. The Russians are in a headlong retreat, shedding their equipment as they fall back.
They were running like mice. They were running and abandoning everything, vehicles, their own men. They even abandoned one of their own who was wounded just to get away.
The Kremlin denies reports that the military setbacks are turning people against President Vladimir Putin.
Russians support the president, and the mood of the people confirms this. The people stand firmly behind the decisions made by the head of state.
But as Ukraine continues to roll back gains made by Russian forces early in the war, Putin's decision to invade Ukraine could come back to haunt him.
And we can join DW correspondent Emmanuel Shaz in Ukraine's second largest city, Kharkiv. Welcome, Emmanuel. Let us start with these reports of torture in the Kharkiv region. What have you been hearing?
Well, Phil, you might hear behind me there's a national anthem being played just as every day at 9 a.m. Ukraine time in memory of all of the people, civilians and soldiers alike who fell during this war. They are called the heroes of Ukraine, and it tells you just how important it is for people to know what happened in those occupied territories. To give you an idea, after a month of occupation in Bucha, we've seen the horrors unfolding, the war crimes, and this is what we might be looking at in the places that have been freed, that have been liberated over the past days. It's over 300 settlements which have been liberated, and from then start to emerge very, very grim reports of people who have been arrested, who have been tortured. Some people apparently also have been killed. There's a lot of pictures circulating on social media of corpses being uncovered by soldiers as they liberate the town. So to give you an idea, the General Prosecutor of Ukraine already investigates over 32,000 cases of war crimes, of crimes against humanity committed by the Russian army, and it seems as if we are looking at more cases being uncovered every day here in the Kharkiv region.
And what have people been telling you as the tide of this war appears to be turning in Ukraine's favour?
Well, what really came true since I've been here in Ukraine is the resilience of people here. They really have faith in their army, but even then, I think even Ukrainians were surprised at how this counteroffensive was successful. They expected a counteroffensive for months, but they had no means to evaluate its successes, and it went, above and beyond what they could have hoped. For example, the key cities here in the Kharkiv region, such as Izium, such as Kupiansk, who are very, very important for the Russian army, have been liberated, and in doing so, this really hinders Russian ways of getting more ammunition, more material conveyed to those soldiers of them who are still on the front line. And it seems really that Russia really struggles to keep its defenses on that new front line.
And President Zelensky said in his evening address on Tuesday that he hopes for a rapid return to normality in liberated areas. What does that look like in places like Bucha that have already been freed from the Russian presence?
Well, you know, the road to normality will be long, first off, because most of the places here have also been shelled. Here in the city of Kharkiv, we haven't seen fighting per se, but there's daily shelling, like day in, day out, and especially at night, buildings are being shelled. So this will be about rebuilding the country. This will take years, of course, but people here are very much ready to do so.
Okay, thank you for that, Emmanuel Shaz in Kharkiv. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has repeated his call for Vladimir Putin to withdraw his troops from Ukraine. In a phone call with the Russian President, Chancellor Scholz urged him to find a diplomatic solution based on a ceasefire, as a counteroffensive by Kyiv's forces made speedy progress. German government spokesperson said Mr. Scholz also urged Mr. Putin to respect Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. DW political correspondent Hans Brandt can tell us more. Welcome, Hans. What sort of diplomatic solution is Germany calling for? What would that look like?
Well, there's those first three steps that were just mentioned. The ceasefire would be the first step. The second step that has been demanded is that Russia withdraw its troops from Ukrainian territory. The third step would be for Russia simply to respect Ukrainian territorial integrity. But in fact, all of these are just preconditions for diplomatic solutions, for diplomatic negotiations. The exact framework or the exact look of such a solution is not really clear at the moment. Even the German government has not really been given any details about what it might think about. In Ukraine, at the same time, there have been discussions with Western allies about what kind of security guarantees Ukraine might need after the war, equipping the Ukrainian army, military support and support from Western countries. This, in fact, has then called for a very severe reaction from Dmitry Medvedev, the former Prime Minister and President of Russia, who said that would be tantamount to Ukraine joining NATO. So we're very far away from a diplomatic solution at the moment.
OK. And so let's look at what Germany has been doing, because Kyiv's been consistent in its demands for Western support. Send us more weapons, particularly tanks. But this seems to be a line the German Chancellor is reluctant to cross, and this appears to be causing friction within his government.
Yes, indeed. The major dispute is around tanks and armoured personnel carriers. These are demanded by Kiev, German tanks, Leopard tanks, and they are basically available, but the German government has been saying repeatedly in the last couple of days that it's not going to go alone in making such a decision. The defense minister said recently that no Western country has so far supplied Western technology tanks to Ukraine, and Germany would not be the first to do that. But within the German government, there are voices that are saying that with the initiative on the side of Ukraine at the moment on the battlefield, this should be taken as the time to supply tanks so that Ukraine can make further advances in its battle against the Russian invasion.
Okay, thank you, Hans. DW political correspondent Hans Brandt.